So welcome everybody, day 23 of the book reading sessions of this New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. So we will be going through where we left. So, there are three ways in which the ego will treat the present moment. One, as a means to an end, as an obstacle, or as an enemy. Let us look at them in turn so that when this pattern operates in you, you can recognize it and decide again. To the ego, the present moment is at best only useful as a means to an end. It gets you to some future moment that is considered more important, even though the future never comes except as the present moment, and it is therefore never more than a thought in your head. In other words, you aren't ever fully here because you're always busy trying to get elsewhere. When this pattern becomes more pronounced, and this is very common, the present moment is regarded and treated as if it were an obstacle to be overcome. This is where impatience, frustration, and stress arise. And in our culture, it is many people's everyday reality, their normal state. Life, which is now, is seen as a problem, and you come to inhabit a world of problems that need to be solved before you can be happy, fulfilled, or really start living, or so you think. The problem is for every problem that is solved, another one pops up. As long as the present moment is seen as an obstacle, there can be no end to problems. It'll be whatever you want me to be, says life or the now. I'll be whatever you want me to be, says life or the now. I'll treat you the way you treat me. If you see me as a problem, I will be a problem to you. If you treat me as an obstacle, I will be an obstacle. At worst, and this is also very common, the present moment is treated as if it were an enemy. When you hate what you're doing, complain about your surroundings, curse things that are happening or have happened, or when your internal dialogue consists of shoulds and shouldn'ts, of blaming and accusing, when you are arguing with what is, arguing with that which is always already the case, you are making life into an enemy, and life says, war is what you want, and war is what you get. External reality, which always reflects back to your inner state, is then experienced as hostile. A vital question to ask yourself frequently is, what is my relationship with the present moment? Then become alert to find out the answer. Am I treating the now as no more than means to an end? Do I see it as an obstacle? Am I making it into an enemy? Since the present moment is all you ever have, since life is inseparable from the now, what the question really means is, what is my relationship with life? This question is an excellent way of unmasking the ego in you and bringing you into the state of presence. Although the question doesn't embody the absolute truth, ultimately, I and the present moment are one, and it is a useful pointer in the right direction. ask yourself it often until you don't need it anymore. How do you go beyond a dysfunctional relationship with the present moment? The most important thing is to see it in yourself, in your thoughts and actions. In the moment of seeing, of noticing that your relationship with the now is dysfunctional, you are present. The seeing is the arising presence. The moment you see the dysfunction, it begins to dissolve. Some people laugh out loud when they see this. With the seeing comes the power of choice. The choice of saying yes to the now, of making it into your friend. So when we say ki life, the ego and its relationship with the present moment is always in a very different pattern, and there are mainly three ways how the ego relates to the present moment. Because since we read about it yesterday in the yesterday's reading, the time and the association and association with time is the only barrier which can actually, if you lift it, kills the ego in you. Because what ego does is either gets you into the past or gets you into the future. It is never in the now. Because when you are in the now, then there is no going, your awareness is not shifting to the past, or your awareness is not shifting, thinking about the future. It is in the now. And in the now में कोई question नहीं है. Because कोई भी question अगर आपका है, it is either of your past or of your future. In the now, and the only question that can help you is when you ask, what is my relationship with my life? Because that is my relationship with the present moment. Because present moment is always ticking. Now, gone. That second is over. Now, new moment. So that's the beauty of that presence. When you're truly alive in the now. आप ना पास्ट के बारे में सोच रहे हो ना फ्यूचर के बारे में सोच रहे हो. बिकॉज ईगो हमेशा पास्ट में कुछ लेके आएगा जिसमें आपका माइंड अटैच होगा एंड यू स्टार्ट थिंकिंग अबाउट दैट, और इट विल ट्राई टू see something in the future. But when you're in the now, that is the time where ego is most discomfortable. And when the more you stay in the now without getting your awareness either in the past or in the future, that's where the ego starts to die a slow death. So the ego relates to the present moment, because since that is the only way, the ego is also aware कि मेरी तो छुट्टी हो जाएगी, is either it will make sure that you treat it as a means to an end. When we talk about it as a means to an end, that means we are in the now, but all we are thinking about is that end. And that end is in the future. But if you are in the now, if you have a plan which is a future-oriented plan, agreed. A future-oriented plan also needs to be divided in the various timelines of what needs to be done at that particular point of time. That's planning. But when you're in that moment and you decide that this is what needs to be done, then you're not bothered. Here, ये तो मैं कर लूंगा, but उसका क्या होगा? No. Then you're shifting your awareness in the future event. But when you're in the now, you are just into that thing that you have decided, and that is marking you as being present in the moment. Because then that is the end in itself. Whenever we are in this theory of gathering means towards an end, 99% of the time, chances are that you will never be able to concentrate and be fully present. Because for Sara time, that thought, that mind, that ego is going to make sure that you concentrate on the future, that you concentrate on the end. Future life pacing is important. You should do it. But उसको जब आप timeline में segregate करके you split it into that, whatever is it, that is the purpose of this time, of this day, this hour, this minute, this second. Till the time you're not present in doing that in its totality, it will always be that you are there, but physically there and mentally in the future. And then you're not in the now. In the now means when you are physically, mentally, and emotionally in that moment. The moment any one of these three things, generally physically nahi shift hota because we don't have those time machines where we can go. So physically you're always there, but mentally and emotionally you keep traveling. So till the time you do not be physically, mentally, and emotionally present in what is it that you are, whatever task you're doing or whatever is it you're doing, that is only when these three are available together marks your presence as true presence. The second thing the ego does is it makes sure that it treats the present moment as an obstacle. और जब हम उसको एक ऑब्स्टिकल की तरह सोचना शुरू कर देते हैं, वो इरिटेशन आती है, that impatience gets in. It's a very simple thing. I'll just share an example how the ego makes it like an obstacle. So you're traveling from one place to another by car on road, and it's a very important meeting for which you prepared yourself and you're absolutely ready. But you unknowingly encounter a big traffic jam. Okay. What happens to your state? पहले हॉर्न, इधर से देख, किसी तरीके से ऑल्टरनेटिव रूट कर, ये कर, वो कर. And when you do not get the desired result, you end up being frustrated and you end up losing whatever you had gathered for that meeting to go well, just drift away in that time frame of that time traffic jam. And it's a very nice observation. Whenever you are in a jam, the best thing, now this is again, now with experience I've got this, I try and observe. अगर आपको 10-12 गाड़ियां दिख रही है ना, wherever you are in that particular traffic jam, what you will see is that there are 50 to 60% people who are frustrated, horn मार रहे हैं इधर, honking and shouting at people. But there are good 20-30% जो आराम से बैठे शांत, even if it is a very important meeting, because they know कि अगर ये चीज मेरे साथ अभी हो रही है, that means this is for my best and highest interest. That means probably not, I mean, this is a wild guess, probably you are not ready for the meeting, you need to prepare more. Or there is something that needs your attention more than anything else. It's a perspective. बट अगर हम अपनी एनर्जी ड्रेन आउट कर देंगे उस ट्रैफिक जैम में, तो क्या फायदा होगा? अगर हम लेट ही पहुंच रहे हैं और हम लेट भी एग्जॉस्टेड पहुंचे, अपना तो मूड खराब ही खराब है, वो लेट हो गए तो उनका भी मूड खराब होगा. It will end up being an entire lose-lose situation for everybody. It's very important for you to be punctual. Whatever is it that you want to do. But if things do not go the way they are meant to be as per your original plan, make an effort, genuine effort. But अगर वो genuine effort में आपको लग रहा है कि नहीं, I don't think so. So and at that time when you make peace with what is as it is, it's not that you are giving up. It's just that you are now waiting for what is best for you at this moment to show up. That's the trust and faith that we need to have when we are talking about being fully present in the moment, and not let the ego treat the present moment as an obstacle, but as a magical cue, or as a you know message from our spirit guides, any other way you want to look at it. And the third the ego does is makes the present moment look like as if it's your enemy. And that's very interesting how the ego plays, and makes you believe that this is your enemy. And that is where a lot of people struggle and think that ये ऐसे कैसे हो रहा है, because there is something missing, and that something that is missing is nothing but your trust and your confidence in what is as it is, because वहां पे फिर आपका क्वेश्चन मार्क खड़ा हो गया. And in life, everything that is in your external reality is nothing but a projection of what exactly is inside. So अगर आपको लगता है ना कि मेरे साथ क्यों हो रहा है, मैं तो ऐसा नहीं हूं या मैं ऐसी नहीं हूं, whatever is the case, it's high time, it's a big reminder. Check consciously, probably you might not be aware of. It is deep rooted in your subconscious. From there, if that is the case, you need to actually go back and see what is it that triggered me, and then ask yourself this question: what is my relationship with life? And if anything is showing up in your external reality, where is it? What part of me inside is attracting that? Because अगर वो आपके अंदर रियलिटी में नहीं है और वो आपकी लाइफ में अगर शो हो जाता है, 99% chances you would not even notice it. There's so many things happening, not necessary your eyes or your note, you notice everything. But what is inside of you, when that is there outside, immediately the mind and the attention goes there. Why? Because external is a projection of internal. External में तो सब कुछ है, पूरी दुनिया है. If you're traveling on a road, there are so many things that are happening on the road. But do you think we notice everything? We notice everything that resonates with what is the true story, which is inside of us. And when we ask our questions, when the ego projects your present moment as a means to an end, or an obstacle, or your enemy, you need to actually go inside and ask, what is my relationship with my life? And once you start developing that relationship with your inner self, trust me, it's the most hilarious thing that can ever happen. But in the middle of traffic jams, I have actually experienced the most hilarious moments possible. The most hilarious moments. And one example I really remember, and still till date I do. Okay, so when I drop my kids to the school in the morning, so generally it's a small road, and it's too many cars, so it's always a jam. If you leave at a particular time, you might not face a jam, but chances are, even if you leave 2 minutes or 5 minutes late, you will encounter a jam for sure. मतलब रोज का ही है. So the first day when we encountered this jam, I was also, I think it's been good 1.5 years now. And suddenly, I don't know, it came to me. I said, okay, who's got the knife? And my daughter's looking at me, what? I said, who's got the toast? मेरे बच्चे मुझे देख रहे हैं, पागल तो नहीं हो गया है? And who's got the butter? What? मतलब they were like, क्या बोल रहे हो आप? What's wrong with you? I said, we have a jam. We need to make a sandwich. So get the knife, get the bread, and get the butter. Let's enjoy. And we had a hearty laugh. In the middle of a traffic jam, और स्कूल के लिए हम लेट हो रहे हैं, टेंशन है कि पता नहीं क्या होगा, but then that changed the perspective. Similar way, I could also be, नहीं यार तुम लोग लेट हो जाते हो, हॉर्न मारी जाओ, चलो 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 चलो. You know, I saw a lot of people doing that. But it just came to my awareness, what is the best we can do of this? Is have a funny moment. So whenever we are in the present moment, the ego will come up with a lot of things in order to distract you from being in the present moment. And there are three ways which we've heard or read in the book. But jab tak hum, when we make ourselves a consciously aware choice of being in the now and not letting our attention mentally and emotionally also go in the past or in the future, and just enjoying this particular moment, that is where the ego has nothing what it can do to attract any attention. And that is where you start getting rid of the ego and actually start enjoying that present moment, being in the presence and enjoying your life much more than whatever you are already doing. The paradox of time. On the surface, the present moment is what happens. Since what happens changes continuously, it seems that every day of your life consists of thousands of moments in which different things happen. Time is seen as the endless succession of moments, some good and some bad. Yet, if you look more closely, that is to say, through your own immediate experience, you find that there are not many moments at all. That there is only ever this moment. Life is always now. Your entire life unfolds in this constant now. Even past or future moments only exist when you remember or anticipate them. And you do so by thinking about them in the only moment there is, this one. Why does it appear then as if there were many moments? Because the present moment is confused with what happens, confused with content. The space of now is confused with what happens in that space. The confusion of the present moment with content gives rise not only to the illusion of time, but also to the illusion of ego. There is a paradox here. On the one hand, how can we deny the reality of time? You needed to go from here to there to prepare a meal, build a house, read this book. You need time to grow up, to learn new things. Whatever you do seems to take time. Everything is subject to it, and eventually, this bloody tyrant time, as Shakespeare calls it, is going to kill you. You could compare it to a raging river that drags you along with it, or a fire in which everything is consumed. I recently met some old friends a family I had not seen in a long time. And I was shocked when I saw them. I almost asked, "Are you ill? What happened? Who did this to you?" The mother, who walked with the cane, seemed to have shrunk in size, her face shriveled like an old apple. The daughter, who had been full of energy, enthusiasm, and the expectations of youth when I last saw her, seemed worn out, tired after bringing up three children. Then I remembered almost 30 years had passed since we last met. Time had done this to them, and I'm sure they were just as shocked when they saw me. Everything seems to be subject to time, yet it all happens in the now. This is the paradox. Wherever you look, there is plenty of circumstantial evidence for the reality of time. A rotting apple, your face in the bathroom mirror compared to your face in a photo taken 30 years ago. Yet you never find any direct evidence. You never experience time itself. You only ever experience the present moment, or rather, what happens in it. If you go by direct evidence only, then there is no time, and the now is all there ever is. When you're talking about this paradox of time, everything happens in the now, because everything is happening right now. Now, now, now. So जो पहला नाव था वो भी उस मोमेंट में था, एंड दैट वाज द नाउ दैट टाइम. और जो अब चार नाव्स के बाद मोमेंट है, दिस इज द नाउ. दिस इज द पैराडॉक्स ऑफ टाइम. Because when we are not in the now, in the present moment, हमें लगता है लाइफ तो खाली पास्ट और फ्यूचर में ही है. अभी तो कुछ है ही नहीं. अभी तो हम बस सोच के प्रॉब्लम्स जो पास्ट की थी या फ्यूचर की एंजाइटी लेके बैठ जाएंगे. But that is where we are losing out on that time, because time is non-exist existential. What is in reality is now. और वो चले गया. क्या बच गया अभी हमारे पास फिर से? Now. And when you make that conscious effort of being in the now, living every second of your life, being fully present in that moment, and not thinking about past, future, कल क्या हुआ था, कल क्या होगा, and just enjoying that experience. And an example, just watch a small 2-year, 3-year-old kid just playing with his toy. He is in the now. वो कल क्या हुआ था नहीं सोच रहा है. वो 5 मिनट पहले मुझे डांट पड़ी थी, मैं रो रहा था, वो भी नहीं सोच रहा है. वो कल क्या होगा स्कूल में, वो भी नहीं सोच रहा है. रात को मुझे खाना मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा, वो भी नहीं सोच रहा है. Because he or she is in that presence of that now, fully present and just enjoying. And that is why they say when you are in the present moment, fully present, you are in that state of enlightenment where there's nothing that is bothering you. And that child is an example. But over the period, उस child के वो belief, conditioning, patterns, expectations, responsibilities, डांट मार फटकार, सारा कुछ, this is what happens to that child in the now. And that's the same with everybody. So make sure you are able to gather all your consciousness, your awareness to the now. Because वो एक चीज है, एक बार निकल गई ना, कोई वापस नहीं ला सकता. And that's the beauty. And that's the beauty that everybody on planet Earth, no matter how successful, how rich, no matter how unsuccessful, how unpoor, below poverty line, whatever, has 24 hours. And what you do with those 24 hours decides what is your priority in your life. You can say a lot of things. I do this, I do that, or I do that. But when you come sit down, write what you've done in the last 24 hours, that decides what your priorities are. Rest everything is just, facade created. So in the now में जब आप fully present होते हो, you are able to then get, a glimpse of this paradox of time which has been created. Because in reality, everything is happening now. और हमें लगता है पता नहीं यार, नाव तो कुछ है ही नहीं है, तो वो हुआ था, ये वो हुआ था. But every life, every moment is always in the now. And it is always in the now that you make a choice for yourself, which will have certain consequences that will, decide. So that choice, which is going to decide your consequences, decide what is going to happen in your destiny, that choice is also in the now. वो भी पास्ट में या फ्यूचर में नहीं. फ्यूचर में और चॉइसेस मिलेंगे, बट अभी वाली इस मोमेंट की चॉइस अभी है. एंड दैट्स द चॉइस यू नीड टू मेक. Eliminating time. All cannot make the egoless state into a future goal and then work towards it. All you get is more dissatisfaction, more inner conflict, because it will always seem that you have not arrived yet, have not attained that state yet. When freedom from ego is your goal for the future, you give yourself more time, and more time means more ego. Look carefully to find out if your spiritual search is a disguised form of ego. Even trying to get rid of yourself can be a disguised search for more if the getting rid of yourself is made into a future goal. Giving yourself more time is precisely this. Give yourself more time. Time, that is to say, past and future, is what the false mind made self, the ego, lives on, and time is in your mind. It isn't something that has an objective existence out there. It's a mind structure needed for sensory perception, indispensable for practical purposes, but the great hindrance to knowing yourself. Time is the horizontal dimension of life. The surface layer of reality, then there is the vertical dimension of depth, accessible to you only through the portal of the present moment. So instead of adding time to yourself, remove time. The elimination of time from your consciousness is the elimination of ego. It is the only true spiritual practice. When we speak of the elimination of time, we are, of course, not referring to a clock time, which is the use of time for practical purposes, such as making an appointment or planning a trip. It would be almost impossible to function in this world without clock time. What we are speaking of is the elimination of psychological time, which is the egoic's mind's endless preoccupation with past and future and its unwillingness to be one with life, by living in alignment with the inevitable isness of the present moment. Whenever a habitual no to life turns into a yes, whenever you allow this moment to be as it is, you dissolve time as well as ego. For the ego to survive, it must make time, past and future. More important than the present moment, the ego cannot tolerate becoming friendly with the present moment except briefly just after it got what it wanted. But nothing can satisfy the ego for long. As long as it runs your life, there are two types of being unhappy. Not getting what you want is one, getting what you want is the other. Whatever is or happens in the form that the now takes, as long as you resist it internally, form, that is to say, the world, is an impenetrable barrier that separates you from who you are and beyond form. Separates you from the formless one, life that you are. When you bring an inner yes to the form, the now takes. That very form becomes a doorway into the formless. The separation between the world and God dissolves. When you react against the form that life takes at this moment, when you treat the now as a means, an obstacle, or an enemy, you strengthen your own form of identity, the ego. Hence, the ego's reactivity. What is reactivity? Becoming addicted to reaction. The more reactive you are, the more entangled you become with form. The more identified with form, the stronger the ego. Your being then does not shine through form anymore, or only barely. Through non-resistance to form, that is, that in you which is beyond form, emerges as an all-encompassing presence, a silent power far greater than your short-lived form identity, the person. It is more deeply who you are than anything in the world of form. So when we are talking about eliminating time, we are talking about eliminating that attention and the awareness that we are giving to the past or the future. We are not talking about eliminating time कि अपनी घड़ी निकालो और फेंक दो. No, that's time for the practical purposes in order to plan. That is required. But जो हम सारा टाइम प्रेजेंट में होने की बजाय पास्ट में बैठे रहते हैं, उसके बारे में सोचते रहते हैं, उसने ऐसे किया था, उसने ऐसे किया था. When you are so strongly associated and attached with a story of the past, or when we are so strongly attached with something that is going to happen in future, and we start becoming anxious and becoming fearful of what is going to happen, that is the time we want to get rid of, not the clock. The clock is required, it's for practical purposes. A day has 24 hours. 24 hours में हर घंटे में 60 मिनट होते हैं, हर मिनट में 60 सेकंड होते हैं. That's a practical distribution of what 24 hours means. We're not getting rid of that clock or that 24 hours. But what you're trying to do is get rid of that association and attachment with which we spend our present moment, which is either a past event or we are thinking about a future event. Because the more we are in that phase of being either in the past or either in the future, that is where we are missing the true essence of this present moment. That is to say that we are missing and we are not in alignment with the isness of life, with the isness of the present moment. And the isness is nothing but accepting what is as it is. And when you accept life with what is as it is, you are truly present to the isness of life. You are truly present to the isness of the present moment. Because you are now okay with what is as it is. That is also to say that you are in alignment with the universal intelligence. Because the time you're not in alignment with the universal intelligence, there is a lot of resistance. There is a lot of unacceptance. And when you are not in alignment, you are always with this question, why me? And the moment we start being in alignment with the isness of the present moment, with what is as it is, and there is no resistance inside of whatever we are thinking, that is where you actually make that distinction beyond the form-based life towards the formless life. Because form-based life जो हम जी रहे हैं is all external. जो हमारे बाहर हमें दिख रहा है, जो मटेरियल ऑब्जेक्ट्स हमें दिख रहे हैं, हम जब तक उसके साथ अपनी अटैचमेंट में रह रहे हैं, and we are being associated, attached, and kind of living that life where everything is based on the form attachment, where this past, present, and future timeline plays a big role. Because कल मेरे पास ये था और आज मेरे पास ये है, तो भी मैं एक एसोसिएशन में इन द पॉजिटिव फॉर्म, बट आई एम नॉट इन द नाउ. मेरे पास कल ये था, आज मेरे पास ये भी नहीं है. Again, that attachment is in that form-based life, that materialistic life which is external to you. Happy, unhappy, both are the same in this context. Because that is in a case of not being in the now. And that is a case of not being in alignment to the isness of the present moment. Because वहां पे एक कंपैरिजन है, एक रेजिस्टेंस है किसी प्रकार की, चाहे वो बुरे से अच्छा जा रहा हो या अच्छे से बुरा जा रहा हो या अच्छे से अच्छा ही हो और बुरे से बुरा ही हो. जब हम अपनी लाइफ एक टाइमलाइन पे देखनी शुरू कर देते हैं, दैट इज वेयर वी गेट डिटैच्ड फ्रॉम the present moment and we are just in that timeline. So that's the timeline which we need to eliminate. We do not want to eliminate the clock. We need to eliminate our association and our attachment to our timeline of past, present, and future. That is nothing but a creation of the egoistic state of our own mind only. बिकॉज जो मैं पास्ट में था वो भी मेरे माइंड ने मेरे को बताया, मेरे माइंड ने ही परसीव किया. जो मैं प्रेजेंट में हूं वो भी मेरा माइंड ही परसीव कर रहा है. एंड आई एम इन दैट परसेप्शन ऑफ दैट थॉट. सो आई एम नॉट हियर नाउ, आई एम इन दैट थॉट. और जो मेरा माइंड ही आगे फ्यूचर प्रेडिक्ट करके परसीव कर रहा है, अगेन आई एम ट्रैवलिंग विद दैट थॉट. आई एम नॉट इन द नाउ. But when I say I am in the now, that means I am not being guided, I am not being attached, and I am not being associated with this timeline of mine. Because this timeline is a perception created by the mind. And nothing to say, it's a perception created by the egoistic state of the mind. Because उसमें उसको मजा आ रहा है. और वो मजा agar hum, if it's a rising line where your past was probably in terms of monetary success low, and right now the monetary success is high, again, there is ego, but that's a kind of a happy ego. But if you were there, which was very high in terms of money scale, and your current, it's declining, again, the ego is there, but that's an unhappy ego. Because that timeline is a projection in the form world, disconnected from the formless, missing that isness of the present moment, of being okay with what is as it is. Yes, I know. The dreamer and the dream. Non resistance is the key to the greatest power in the universe. Through it, consciousness, spirit, is freed from its imprisonment in form.